So let's turn the time over to Tom.
Good.
To tell us about theater.
Just a quick overview of who I am. I was born and raised in Palo Alto, California, along with the Packards, and spent my first 20 years there. Went to BYU, did a mission in the UK, came back, graduated in English business school in California, worked for Hewlett Packard in marketing for 20 years, retired, moved out to Provo because this is where my wife is from. And thought that I was just going to be done. I ended up being given a job teaching Welsh at BYU, a very popular, had to fight pretty hard to get that one.
And so your mission was in Wales.
It was.
You learned to sing well like the Welsh sing.
No, no opinions there. And I was able to retire early at about 42 because I started making investments in real estate in Palo Alto. And they were all passion investments, not I'm going to go invest in real estate. This is a cool building. I'm going to buy it and make it cooler. When I moved out here, I thought I was done, but the people in Palo Alto wanted to buy the buildings that I had made, and so the last one I sold was to Google for about 50% more than it was worth, which was a good deal. So I have taken and reinvested that money into Provo real estate. I own the old startup candy factory, which is really fun. Cool. The first Studebaker dealership, which then became the first Volkswagen dealership, which then became the first Kia dealership. Wow. And it's now, we've got a small, anyway, we've got a bunch of small film producers there and some other things and an event center. It's, anyway, fun buildings. And for about 30 years, I've wanted to build a theater and just looking for the right space. This opportunity really came up. Quinn and I, and Quinn will introduce himself, have assembled several groups to try to look at where can we build a theater, how can we get an independent cinema in Provo. Quinn and I started working together for the simple reason that after one fairly large meeting, the question went round. What are the minimum requirements for you to be interested in doing a theater? Some people, it's got to be a fourplex, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. Quinn and I said, whatever it takes to get film on a screen, that's our bar. Just setting it as low as possible. And that's kind of what we've got here. The cinema, which the bar has been placed as low as possible.
Yeah, and I'm Quinn Peterson. I'm currently the executive director of Downtown Provo, Inc. So we're a nonprofit 501c6 in the downtown. So I've been the director there about 8 years. So I handle public art, tourism, policy for Provo downtown. And I end up spending the majority of my time on policy work now. We have a few other employees that help. We run the art stroll, we do the mural program, we do all sorts of things throughout the downtown. But I'm also passionate about film myself. I ran the international cinema while I was a student at BYU. And since then, I purchased a home in 2012, and we turned the carriage house in the back into a home cinema. So actually, if you search Provo Theater on your phone, there's one that pulls up called the Quiniplex. And,
good. It's very good reviews.
Yeah, so we actually have a group text, and the whole neighborhood, they all schedule each night what's happening in my home theater. And we have kind of a little kitchen. Everyone kind of just brings food and supplies, and so every night there's stuff going on. Most weekends there's karaoke groups that come through, but it's just the backside of our property. Now, being in the position so closely tied to economic development, we recognized, Tom and I both about 8 years ago collaborated with this realization that there was a need for an independent cinema in Provo. And so, we were hoping someone else would do it and we could help them, and we were prodding other groups, hey, this would be a good idea, and kind of trying to plug them, and they all just failed. And so eventually, after enough of those conversations, we thought, well, maybe we'll just do it ourselves. And so the proposal came about largely through the different projects that the city is going through, working with the city as a partner and knowing what opportunities there were for property in the right place to make this happen. And so this came together. And you can talk about the RFP or the land or anything. It's just
Go ahead.
It's just it's the old Roasted Artichoke spot right on Center Street, right behind the Rent-A-Center on Center Street. And
What's the address?
480 West.
480 West.
480 West. So it's right in that historic downtown corridor. It's actually right close to that 5th West opening. And so that is another kind of exciting motivator for the city, for this to be right there. Because the west end of Center is disgusting. It's a horrible welcome to the historic downtown. And so we're glad to put a piece there. Now, the piece sat vacant for 20 plus years because the shortened version of the story is it was demoed, but it's a tiny piece. Historically, you didn't need parking for a project, but new builds, you do. Well, that's impossible for that project because it was demoed and it never had parking. And so the city said, well, you need parking to build it. Well, that's impossible, so it sat vacant for 20 years. And so we came to them and said, hey, you guys know we need a theater. We know there's a theater. Why don't you work with us and let us get that property, and we'll do some more creative parking solutions instead. And so they opened an RFP. It took us about 3 years to get the property, and then Tom just closed on the property 6 months ago.
So what are you doing about parking then?
We don't have
Center Street.
Yeah,
Just
Center Street.
yes.
But also the largest parking demand is going to be in the evening, and the city is going through a process right now to redevelop that whole block where they used to be. And the new developer that's been chosen is tasked with creating a parking structure that can service the city center. So there's 220 stalls that are having to be created for the city center staff, and those are all going to be vacant at night. And so that's right across the street. So that's not like the requirement written in code, but that was kind of the verbal promise we made to the city. Just don't make us a parking requirement, and it's going to be just fine because there's going to be a lot of parking. So
You can't tear down the Rent-A-Center?
The Rent-A-Center is a beautiful building, just ill-used.
yeah,
Yes, you're right.
it is a
You are
beautiful
right,
building
absolutely.
with terrible tenant, but
You are right.
I have a pressing meeting, and so I'm here for the next 45 minutes.
Yep.
So Provo Cinema, as part of the pitch buying the property from the city, we said that we would name it the Provo Cinema because the marquee will pretty much just say Provo. And it's a way of welcoming people and acknowledging, here's the city hall, that we're going to have better signage than the city hall does. And then the cinema will be named Provo Cinema. The Long Road moved to Provo in '03. We've looked at many different sites, and a cinema needs very specific things. We're kind of fortunate with this one, even though it's a tiny site, it's a ground up build. There's just gravel there now. We've talked a lot about different options and plans. 480, as Quinn said, we've been working on for 3 years. We bought the land in May via an RFP, and Provo Cinema name is locked in. There's, in the prayer, it was mentioned that this is an opportunity for feedback. So far, all of our plans are on paper, it's pretty easy to do. The name, we don't need to discuss. That's the only thing that's really locked in. We've gone through 3 revisions with the architect. Those plans are now with a company called Clayco. Do you know Clayco? They're a professional outfit out of Salt Lake.
Yes, I've worked with them.
Yeah, they do.
Clayton is
Yeah.
one of the guys. Yeah,
They
he's
do
a
installations
genius.
of projector, screen, and sound systems
Yeah.
for theaters, and they do it regionally, and they're
Yeah.
quite good. So we're working with them. They're doing some revisions on that, and then we'll go take it back through the architect.
I
and
think
over
that
to the
neither
city.
Tom or I mentioned that I would add, we like film, but we're not experts in film. And that's one of the reasons, but that was one of the reasons that it allowed us to collaborate to create this, because everyone who was heavily invested in film, they were so hyperbolic to say, it must be this way, it must be this way, and none of them could align. So that's why a team like Clayco has been so great, because we know basic gist, but when it comes to how far off the wall the screen needs to be to fit speakers, we don't know any of that stuff.
Right.
And so that's
They're
been
good.
lots of the iterations to gather data from people that are more in the film industry to help us tweak and edit to fine tune this.
If we were smarter, we wouldn't have gotten this far. So the basic layout is just that this is good. So Center Street's over here. This will be a lobby, bathroom, and utilities in here. The actual theater here. This is going north. Probably has a so this is north. It goes out to a vacant lot. This exit was a big deal for us to get approval on because it goes onto the neighbor's yard. not technically legal, but the city said, it's just an emergency exit.
Yeah.
Right.
These 3 spaces, depending on our ability to get parking, it will become apartments. And one of my hopes as the funder and the landlord is that the rent from the apartments will come close to covering the cost of the building, so that we're planning on running the theater as a 501c3, and we talk about some of the funding things, but we're hoping to just keep the costs so low that it will survive, because cinema today.
What about sound insulation? Because you've got to have good sound in the theater,
Yeah.
and if you've got apartments there, they probably don't want to be hearing it constantly.
We'll have to work on that.
Yeah.
Find someone who really loves the sound of cinema.
Well, sound isolation.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many
Yeah.
seat theater is it?
100. So again, here's the lobby over here, stairs to the upper levels, restrooms. That's a new iteration. We'll have storage under the seats. There will be 88 seats here, and then I didn't put it in there, but on the second floor, just above the storage, there will be 2 VIP boxes. And we're calling them VIP boxes because they sound better that way. But it's, if we're running a film festival or something like that, that's where they'll be behind glass. So the producer and the director, who have already seen the film 1,000 times, can sit back there and just talk and just enjoy. So they can watch. One idea is to put a microphone in the theater and with the separate speakers, so they can turn down the cinema sound, turn up the audience sound, so they can just gauge the response.
Feedback, yeah.
The other is for families with young kids.
Because it'll be
take a box.
It'll be 2 rooms that are separated by the projection, so it's one on each side.
That's right.
So that we can, as we get closer, so that we can tailor those 2 rooms to be similar or different. Yeah.
Good verb.
Hey, Tom, is there a way of, instead of making them apartments, making them businesses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like film company businesses, maybe? People who do
Yeah.
appreciate the sound of the theater?
And who go home before midnight?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway.
The sound will help keep them awake and inspire them.
So a lot of the negotiation to get the theater in the first place on the lot that doesn't have any parking it was okay to not have parking for the theater.
Yeah.
So that's why we talk about the parking need. So that's not yet solved. We have some proposals that it should be relatively simple, but whether it's business or apartment, we do need to provide parking for anything additional to the theater. But that additional is what hopefully can help cover the nut for that cost.
Yeah. And the business actually requires more parking than
A residence.
And residents we can parking share with the neighbor.
Yeah.
So we can rent stalls from the neighbor for nighttime parking.
Because it could be
yeah.
a great place for not film production,
Right.
but film like posting in offices,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So
I-
that way there won't be as many cars that you need to worry
Yeah.
about. Or
Yeah, the city unfortunately has a formula that just says if it's business, you need this many, and that's a lot more than
Got it.
residential.
I
But
see that.
it's a good idea though. Yeah.
It is. And then the third use for the VIP boxes is for people who have sensory sensitivities. So they can lower a little screen, turn the sound down, have some ambient lighting in there, that sort of thing.
I see.
Financial plan, I am hoping that the apartments cover a lot of the cost. Quinn Kamako, who couldn't come, is the third of our triumvirate, are creating a 501c3. The LLC will hopefully make enough income. The LLC, that's me, will make enough income from the apartments so that we can help by charging the cinema a very low rent. And then the 501, I'm hoping we'll be able to raise the funds for the cinema TI. So if we can keep the cost of the building low enough that I will cover, and then have the 501, everything they purchase is tax-free. And that's also a way of, sort of building the organization to be moving forward.
And that 501 has already allowed us to partner with some vendors that are
right.
willing to make some donations that are tax exempt for them. so that hopefully, yeah, the cost for Tom is a little bit less, so that those are tenant improvements to the tenant rather than the LLC landlord.
I anticipate losing money on this. I'd like to lose the least amount of money I can. This is our. I know you can all read that, but that's our that's our programming. So the programming slots through the day. I'm not sure that we actually can, but I'd like to show 4 different films a day. After school, a kids film, what I would call a date film at the 7 o'clock slot, something that my wife would be interested in seeing. 9 o'clock slot, something that I would be interested in seeing, but my wife would not. And then after midnight, having something that students would enjoy seeing, and I'll be home in bed.
Priorities, right?
We've been fortunate to have a fun local sci-fi horror film festival, Film Quest. They do very well.
Oh, yeah.
And they're friends and partners of ours, and so it might be some neat collaborations for those later night screening opportunities.
Keep the bar very low for
So
those.
is it more like an art house theater? Or
Yeah.
Even, okay.
So it'll be a mix of first-time showings and then themed classics, kids, other alternatives.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
The kid shows, what we're thinking is actually having that done by subscription. So that just buy a subscription so the kids can just come. And that way also we'd be able to sell and anticipate revenue that's going to cover the films. So we don't have to worry about, it'll be more, it's not going to be babysitting, but we hope for strong repeat customers.
So you're saying kids shows rated XXX? Is that
Absolutely. Now, you know that XXX is the shipping label for the illiterate seamen who were bringing things to Amsterdam. That's the shipping mark for Amsterdam. And I love Amsterdam. It's unfortunate that their shipping label became associated. We don't know how many it's going to require to break even, but good observation.
But if you make 4 X's, then it's better.
Is it? It gets even better. I don't know where that goes. Someone has helped me edit this one. So date films my wife would like to go to. Do any of you know the Maven Cinema?
In American Fork?
Devora and Joseph.
Maven.
I have a hard time with their last
call
name.
them the Mavens.
We call them the Mavens.
Is that
They opened that theater for about 9 months before there was an electrical fire that put them out of business. Their landlord just didn't renew their lease. Their experience is that college students were very interested in older commercial, the highly successful films from the past. And so that will be, and they've been wonderful consultants, and they just said that most of their attendees were coming from UVU and BYU, and they were driving up to the Sticky Shoe Theater, as many of you knew it. And really focusing on the experience of going out to a movie. It's so easy to just stream something. So we want to make it a very appealing place to take someone for a date, to go with your friends, just to make it a very different kind of experience.
The ambiance.
Focusing on the experience, yeah.
And maybe that's in here, but concessions will be a heavy part of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, just we've partnered with a few different local groups that have unique concession concepts. There's a group, Pie Fight, up at Sugar House. They're interested in having a presence there in the concessions. The Facade is also going to have a pickup window so that we can monetize through the day for those concessions. We have 2 other local food experts that want to collaborate to do types of drinks, types of food, in addition to Pie Fight, so that can hopefully be generating revenue outside of when screenings are happening, and then it is a part of what will make it a unique theater experience during the screenings.
So people can still go in and just buy food even if they weren't coming to see the movie.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, but the idea is it'll have a pickup window on the sidewalk so you don't have to go in.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rockwell, whose ice cream I really like, is willing to start making individual servings so that we can sell ice cream without scooping ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's,
And Rockwell also owns the startup candy company now, and
right.
they've got just loads of classic candy options that we want to have as in a cabinet. That's
Yeah.
good.
So the 9 o'clock slot, more than just a little, just good films. Late night, as Quinn mentioned, Film Quest is looking at getting distribution rights to all the films that come through them for 1 year, so that we can borrow those films for one week of showing, and be able to share that revenue directly with the filmmaker. Mondays, every cinema gets a discount night. Most of these cinemas in this area do Tuesday, $5 Tuesdays.
Right.
So we're going to shift ours to Monday and sort of have it be a family home evening emphasis. That also lets us do something fun with Tuesdays. So we'll just, the lower prices, special family pricing, that sort of thing.
And that one night a week is very controlled by the distributors. Distributors are what allow it, only one, no more, and so that's part of why that happens.
They have to buy off on our pricing structure overall, since they're going to be sharing in it.
Yeah.
Tuesdays, I think, will be the most interesting day for you. We want to start something called Provo Film Alliance. The notion of this is based on an organization I ran for about 7 years called 1 Million Cups, created by the Kauffman Foundation out of Kansas City. And they would bring together entrepreneurs every Wednesday at 9 o'clock all across the country. Provo was the 25th franchise that they had. But the entrepreneur, there would be 2 entrepreneurs. One would present for about 7 minutes. We had a timer with a and then 25 minutes of Q&A. And it was just the most interesting give and take, because you had wannabe entrepreneurs, you had students, you had young entrepreneurs, and you had mature entrepreneurs. And it was just we had probably 4 new companies formed every year from the collisions of different people and different ideas. And we'd like to get something like that going where, the last month, I think we mentioned several films that, got some exposure many years ago and haven't seen the light of day since. Those would be the perfect kind of things we want to have in here. A film director, producer, or a major actor come and show clips of the film, talk about the film, 10, 15 minutes, and the rest of the hour would be Q&A. Completing a film is a miracle. How did you pull it off? What did you do? How did you overcome this, overcome that?
Couple of suggestions that may be useful for you. Number one, for many years, BYU Film School has had their final cut screenings where they screen all these short student films.
Yes.
And I think there's a wealth of possibilities there that you could put together a number of programs of those.
Yeah.
Also, this man is the owner of the LDS Film Festival.
Sold it.
And he's got...
Yeah.
And I'm already
Absolutely.
ready to give you some ideas. Of
Yeah.
things, but I'm letting you finish your thing.
Yes.
And I have some suggestions as well.
Excellent. So really, that would be an opportunity for 100-ish people to get together, talk about the nuts and bolts of making film, and I just think that would be so fun. And then the rest of the day, we would be screening that film. So 3-4 times that day, that would get to be screened, and hopefully that would help to fund future projects for that filmmaker.
Now, are you going to screen these in the DCP, the regular digital cinema?
Yeah. We will not have
Because what?
We won't have a 35 mil projector.
No, but I mean, that's the way you get that experience, because the sound,
Yep.
the size of
Well,
the
your
projection.
Clayco?
Clayco,
They
yeah.
they would give you the DCP playback capability.
Yeah.
You probably also would want to have an
DVD.
alternate, Blu-ray or something alternate to
In case
that.
somebody comes in with
Not just Blu-ray, but somebody with a hard
Laserdisc.
drive.
Yeah.
Pour it on.
That was
Yes.
I know we're going to have VHS capability. That's
Yeah.
all. We've got to.
And maybe it's been mentioned before, but one of the other kind of big motivators for this facility is that other filmmakers that have been successful and they need to do their screenings, maybe they've been sold or maybe they, whatever, or they just completed something. they bring out a Bluetooth microphone, battery powered, with no lighting at a Cinemark. So for us to be able to host these things on a Tuesday, it'll have lighting and microphone and kind of a mini stage setup that can be more conducive towards this environment.
I should have mentioned that. We're going to have a light bar back here so that it can illuminate this area. This area we kept absolutely flat to maximize the amount of stage area. And we'll just have a mic plug-in or a Bluetooth plug-in so that presentations, having people talk before or after the event is well done.
Yeah.
We've had, Angel and Kaleidoscope and several others have said, when we do a small premiere or something here, it's like we're holding flashlights on someone and they're talking into a boom box.
Yeah.
So we want to have this be, it's a small theater, so it's not going to be a great premiere for something really big, but setting it up so that it's easy to do those
Something
things.
else you want to have?
And someone's going to set up a Discord server for us. Who's not going to be next?
do that.
Something else you want to have is a fiber optic line in,
Yeah.
because if I've got a film I want to screen, you mentioned the sticky floor.
Yes.
I had a deal with them,
Uh-huh.
and I would go in when I'm editing a film, and I would be able to go in at 9:30 in the morning,
Yep.
rent it for
Yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, look, morning uses.
Yeah, what an idea. But see it on the large screen, so you make different editing decisions on
Yeah.
that. But you'd want to be able to receive a 20 or 25 gig file.
Yes.
And then be able to throw it up on the screen.
Yeah. Google said we can get a 10 gig line. So it's, and regular distribution now is done over fiber for 50% of films or so. It's not you're not getting the physical disc anymore. So morning uses, film checks, private screenings, producer screenings, test screenings. Comico was telling me that they will pay you to do test screenings. And so if we can get on that circuit, yeehaw. Film festivals. Kyle's is here. I don't know where we are with Sundance Film Festival.
Yeah, so the update, we're in the final 3. We expect they're going to announce at Sundance who's chosen for the new contract. But
Makes sense.
in the renewal for the contract, I sat down with the state film society, what's it called? Film Commission. Utah Film Commission.
They'll be right here on January 8th,
Okay.
giving a presentation.
Fantastic.
So Utah Film Commission sat down with myself and the mayor's office, Isaac Paxman, and then Lee, who's with Explore Utah Valley, who is the Utah County film seat, to put together part of the proposal. So the summary, and we'll see if this is still the plan, but we were a part of the application for the rough draft for Sundance to stay. The idea is they want to offload some time and pressure off Park City for this next contract. And so they're interested in Provo hosting 1 to 2 full days where they can do screenings, social parties, after events, all that sort of stuff. So this theater and a couple other facilities are in that proposal.
Cool.
Zion Film Festival, we haven't talked to we've talked to Sundance and Film Quest. Pocket Film Festival, I don't know if any of you remember that, but that was Austin Craig who put that together, and it was short films that you could shoot with anything that could fit in your pocket. GoPro, it had to be shot, edited, and then projected from, and that's where it fell down. It should have all been loaded to one disc and then just shown in sequence, but I'd love to bring that back. And then Utah International Film Festival. And then
They had a lot of out-of-pocket expenses.
and they've got a lot of in-pocket expenses. So other uses, there are fun things happening downtown, and we'd like to be part of that. Buzzards and Bees, having small bands, music recitals, private events, video game competitions. And one thing that we needed to be here was film trivia nights.
Fun.
Before or after a show. But school collaborations. Comico is a high school teacher, and we've just really wanted to get, I think on the video, over here, Utah High School Film Festival, they used to have that, but they didn't get a display space for it. And Comico's very keen on doing that.
So he teaches film at a high school.
Yeah. So film competition, creative short commercials for local firms. One of the ideas we have to keep the cost down for the tickets and being able to survive is finding local companies who are willing to sponsor a film. Films cost $300 to $400. If they were to do that, we could create a high school level. I really want them to be very fun and very local. Maybe hokey is the word I'm looking for. Just advertising that sponsor, just a quick splash for them. BYU and UVU would be doing internships to help teach them about distribution. I think any good filmmaker who, while they're in their youth, should get cinema exposure. This is the end use. This is where you want your films to end up. And knowing how those people think, what they go through, all of that, I think would be really useful. Screening of university films, as you were mentioning before, both the animated and the other short films would be really fun. And then tie into the Provo Film Alliance, which we discussed earlier. And that is it.
Wow.
Q&A for up to 20 minutes, but it can be shorter. Gal?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to throw that, but I love it. It's definitely something that has been looked forward to, especially downtown Provo.
Yeah.
It's one of those holes that I think has needed to be filled ever since they got rid of that one theater some years ago. I think my own as a festival owner and operator, my only hesitation, and again, I know it's because you have this specific stuff in mind, is there is, it would almost need, in my opinion, a few more seats. So, and I know that may not be realistic.
The lot is
But-
27 feet wide
Yeah.
and 100 feet deep.
Yeah, that's like, yeah.
So
I
using
just-
every inch.
Wow.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
and if we're successful with this, there are other places on Center Street
Yeah.
where we can do a second and a third center.
Oh, no.
Provo has so much demand for entertainment that goes unfulfilled.
I mean, there's a lot of those lists do serve the 88 seats plus the extra.
Yes.
I totally get it. That's why
Yeah.
I can see feeding to that, especially the movies showing all day concepts and I just know that if there was a festival ever
Yeah.
or a premiere, and you actually even said it, it's not meant for a big premiere.
No.
It's meant for, and
Yeah.
so, or even just test screenings or things like that, like you said. But anyway, that would be my only thing. Otherwise, I love the concept of
Yeah.
it. Is that if you could
We
get
originally
one-
had a lot more seats in there, and we passed the plans over to Clayco, and they said, humans can't fit in
Yeah.
these seats. We don't know who drew them, but humans won't fit.
Told our architect how many seats we wanted, so he just did it.
He just
They
threw
were
them in.
littler people.
And then they were like, you can't fit.
Only midgets.
Yeah.
I can
Legless.
fit.
So
I can fit.
I'll add though to that
I'm the
comment
only
about
one.
festivals. When we talked to Sundance, they said they're not interested in any theaters that seat more than 200.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, and I was thinking 120 is what I,
Yeah.
because that's sort of.
125 is my favorite number,
Yeah,
but that's not going to work.
yeah.
So-
So that's understandable.
So have you talked to Michelle and Marshall at the Zion's Film Fest? I'm on their board.
No,
So-
no, we'd love
because
to.
They are running out of space. They have
Yeah.
10,000 people at the festival this year.
Right, and
They've got 2 theaters,
yeah,
but they're starting to look.
Yeah.
So
we'd love to be a third screen for them.
talk to them.
Yeah.
Because I think they'd love it.
And Valor hosts Film Quest quite well.
Sure.
I saw your shirt.
Yep.
So the idea for Film Quest in the future is that they'll be using both those facilities, and then more down the road we'll see.
So
Yeah.
here is a source for you, a resource for you. The community of filmmakers is being developed, and there are many different aspects of it. I mean, UVU program, BYU program, of course, but we have Visionaries, and you've been
Yes.
part of it from the beginning.
Yeah.
And we're going on almost 5 years now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we have people who have resources and who have talent.
Yeah.
And let us be part of this.
I'm planning on it.
And I say that because what you're providing here is something that we need as well. I mentioned already, when I'm editing,
Yeah.
I want to go and look at a cut on a large screen
I
and the
know.
feel
It
of it, the
plays
flow of it.
differently.
And
It
you make
does
different
than on a
editing.
TV screen.
That's right. I'm sitting there dictating constantly. Okay, we got to adjust this to this, and I go back to my Avid, and I've got great benefit from having seen it on a large screen as opposed to
Right.
the other. So there are great benefits for all of this, and office space instead of apartment space.
Yeah.
Editing space instead of apartment
Yeah.
space. So yeah, let's be collaborating.
We just need to find parking for those uses.
Yeah.
But
we have options, and,
There-
and if the options work out, like if we get that lot, then
there's a vacant
it's
lot
easy.
behind
There's
us.
a vacant lot behind us.
Is it large enough that you
It's
could
large
expand
enough
the
for-
size of the building?
No, they're not connected.
It's a flag
Yeah.
type arrangement.
So parking is what it would be.
Yeah,
What if
yeah.
you raised the building up and had parking underneath?
Can't do it. So a parking stall is 20 feet and needs 40 feet backup. So we could, if we could,
It's just so
if we
tiny.
could crane,
Yeah.
if we could crane the cars in, it would
Yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah.
But just put them on rollers.
Yeah.
Sounds great to me, what's the problem?
Yeah.
So you
I
need little
live-
bitty cars and little bitty people.
I lived in Seoul for
Midgets.
6 months.
Midget
My
cars.
apartment, you would go in this tiny alleyway, and then there was a rotating plate which would move your car 90 degrees. You'd pull into an elevator that would take you up to your floor, and then you would roll forward. 4 apartments and 1 lot, 1 parking space per floor.
Had to be pricey though.
Yes, it was. But worth
They
it.
do it in New York.
Yeah.
They do it in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to sell your soul in Seoul.
That's right.
I left some sneakers there, 2 soles for the price of 1.
Yeah, so we have a couple options for parking. They're just not sorted out quite yet. Because the truth is, we don't need those to build the theater, and we want to get the theater under construction. There's also a little bit of,
We're looking
financial
for-
leverage. The person who's been trying to sell this lot that's been vacant and it's contaminated, there's a whole story there. They think it's worth insane amounts of money because they know this theater lot needs it to be successful. So as soon as we start building, suddenly they lose all their leverage because we don't need it for the theater anyway.
So we're constantly looking on ways of lowering the financial bar, lowering the bar to get this up and going.
Now, were you were the one, or you ran International Cinema at BYU. That is a marvelous thing, and there are treasures of films which are cultural touchstones for all of us. And what we need to have, is maybe we can help you with this, a whole program of 1,000 top films from the last 60, 80 years that are listed on there. And of course, it's going to be the top 100 from AFI and a bunch of others there. But let's get them licensed or agreed or somehow to make it work.
One of the things that Sticky Shoe, aka Maven Theater, did really well is that they really engaged with their clientele. They had ways that people would suggest films. They would, anyway. So we want it to be very collaborative. We want to have. Where's that slide? When people come, we want them to join as a member, and to do that, basically, they have to give us their phone number that is textable and tell us what kinds of films they want, because our method of advertising is simply going to be a text message out. My wife will never get a text message saying we're showing The Godfather, but any rom-com we get, she'll know about that.
Right.
So also have in there
Very targeted messaging.
for those kinds of films. You may want to have a 3-minute, no more than 3-minute introduction sort of a thing for somebody to do that.
Yeah.
So I have a quiz for you that was prompted by one of your slides here. So what film is it that was the first film out of only 2 in the entire history of the Academy Awards won Best Film, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress? What film won that, and what year, and who was the director? And that same film, nobody knows that right yet?
We've started the trivia
that,
night early.
That same film then also began the product placement business because Clark Gable took his shirt off, and the director said, "It's taking you too long to take your shirt and your T-shirt off. Just forget the T-shirt. Take your shirt off." And so he did that, and the entire T-shirt industry died in the United States because of that. What was the film?
It happened one night.
That's right. That's right. Who was the director?
Michael Curtiz?
No, no. Same era, Frank Capra.
Frank Capra.
Oh.
That's right. And what was the other film that also won the four?
It's a Wonderful Life.
No,
Oh, dang it.
no.
It struck me.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, wow.
Really?
But
Really?
and you should have that part.
So let me say something about this. So I worked at BYU on international cinema too.
Yep.
And we saw the extreme decline of people coming to live events.
Yep.
And so we thought a lot about that, how to improve that. And one of the things that is key, I believe, is to have theaters like you have in Paris. There must be 100 theaters in Paris that have post-film discussion.
Yeah.
Somebody will come up and say, now when you watch this film, this was a classic, notice for this and this, and then they lead a little discussion.
Yeah.
And people and students would do that. They would not do that to just.
I don't know why that didn't make the slides, but that is in the plan, and that is it's a key portion of being a 501, that we have to have an educational
aspect.
component.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's great.
component.
That's great.
The other thing that I didn't mention is we've got in the lobby, we've got a little built glassed-in niche where we want to be able to showcase things from, we've got a lot of collectors in this area. And anyone who's willing to share something that's interesting and hopefully has some tie-in to the film, they'd be able to display some fun things.
Okay, now the other thing is, it may seem a little arrogant on my part, but I think Provo area, Utah Valley, is the hotbed of films that are going to reach lots of people. Angel Studios has shown that already.
Yep.
We have to continue that effort, I believe.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to do it is to have a little small theater. The goal is not to get lots and lots of people to that theater. It will fill up. The goal is to broadcast that theater so that people can watch it as it's streamed and can hear the discussion that goes on afterwards and can a little bit. And so this, if you are interested in films that are going to reach families, mainstream audiences, that Provo Theater is the one you have got to be connected to.
So we can film and broadcast pre and post. We can't do the film, but
no,
that's
there must be ways of
there are, but
arranging.
those we're looking to lower the bar, not raise it. They're financial. You have to pay for those rights, and they're very
Yeah, the
expensive.
distribution rights for that are very, very difficult.
And it's very hard to
so what
monetize those.
I would do something like, come to the beginning when we do it. Now click here
Exactly.
and watch it someplace, and then come back to the end.
Exactly. So
But you
Nick-
want to
yeah.
get people all over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick and I have been talking about setting up a Discord server so that people can come in, see that, and hear the pre.
Yes.
Now go watch the film.
And then come
Here's
back
the
to-
post.
that would
Yeah.
be-
So
that
we
would
can
be
be the bread and the sandwich.
Yeah.
Be absolutely-
We can't be the meat.
Yeah, and the idea for this streamability would also be tied into some membership, where that's a way for us to monetize. It's like, hey, you can't be here, but if you pay a few dollars a month, you can tap into these different
All the discussions.
Yeah, the discussions.
Yeah.
Supporters.
Yeah, you'll have a worldwide audience that.
That's what we need. We need a worldwide audience that looks to the Provo cinema.
Well, another thing that is an absolute natural for us here, because it's Provo, is back in 2012, I saw a notice from Variety magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Variety is as worldly as they get. And the notice was for a conference for filmmakers on the subject of family-friendly and faith-based films. And I was just floored. They're sponsoring this? You're kidding me, in LA. And I thought, well, I want to go to that, and I want to meet the other 37 people who might attend that.
Who all came from Georgia and Salt Lake.
And it turns out, well, Starling was
Tennessee,
there.
yeah.
I didn't even plan it.
We
Didn't plan it
didn't
with
even
you.
know that each other was going to be there.
And
But we
Wow.
both ended
there
up
were
there.
what?
600 people there.
You're kidding.
Oh, it was full.
Wow.
I mean, this big giant ballroom
And-
was just
Yeah.
totally filled.
Anyone from
The-
Disney? Anyone from Disney come?
Humor, I like
A
that.
few.
Yeah, but the message of it all was that there's a gigantic audience
Yeah.
underserved,
Yeah.
and untapped.
Yep.
And they started with box office numbers. And they said, look at this film, and it did extremely well. This film, and it's family friendly, it's faith based. And where did all the money come from? The theaters that were filled in the heartland
Yeah.
of the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not out of
That's
New
us.
York.
Yeah, it was red state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this can be where that happens. Films and cultural aspects are upstream from all sorts of other things.
Just like Angel Studios does with their guild.
Yeah.
There can be films that can be shown to these people that are regularly coming in, and they can weigh in on whether it ought to be distributed.
Yes.
Just like the guild
Yeah.
does for Angel
They're-
Studios.
I think they're going to be one of our regular morning customers.
Yeah.
Can you link the films, like just have the link there that they could go to it without
Probably.
charging money? Because I think if you
Yeah.
could just have a link to whatever
Yeah.
streaming service has it, they don't have to try and find it,
Yeah.
you know?
The tricky thing is that things, it's on this streaming service, then on this
It's
one.
on
then-
27th Street, yeah.
And so tracking those and,
Yeah.
By the
we
way,
can help, but I don't know if it's
Just link
perfect.
it onto IMDb and that'll
Yeah.
take them to whatever service
Yes.
they want to go to.
Yes, that's stable.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
by the way,
right to
since you
IMDb.
mentioned Georgia, that's my home state.
Good, good.
When
I knew there was something peachy about you.
Peachy.
after this becomes a great success and you want to spread out,
Yep.
I have a theater in my hometown, in Columbus, Georgia,
Okay.
sitting idle for the last 40 years.
Oh, wow.
The Bradley Theater, which my grandfather helped to build in 1940.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
It would be glad to. I've wanted to renovate and restore and reuse that one for
Yeah.
many years.
Yeah.
Tom, is there a time frame? Is the building?
There is. There's a frame and there's time.
Okay. Let's
Are
hear
they
it.
together?
When does it start?
So I am required by the city to break ground within 2 years of the day I bought it. And I'm hoping to do it quite a bit sooner. I would venture to guess that we should be ready to start in the spring.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be, a year-ish build, hopefully less, but
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the big obstacles with the city have been overcome. And so the official process to get the building permit, we're expecting to be relatively manageable. And we think that we can begin that here in the next month or two.
yeah,
Have you talked to anybody at Kaleidoscope? Because they're
Yes.
right there
Yeah.
in Provo too. Good.
yeah. They've
They're
been good
such
friends.
a good.
They
yeah.
initially, when early on in the process, they were going to be the managers
Okay.
of and they decided that's not one of their core competencies, and they'd rather just be a provider of films.
That's
yes.
wonderful.
Speaking of managers, as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, that's gonna be a lot of work for
Yeah.
2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
You guys are ready for that?
We're not going to. You're not looking at managers.
Yeah. So we're positioning to where I'll be the executive director of the nonprofit, and we will have to have a fairly competent general manager that can help us put these things together. Our board of directors will have a few other kind of subcategories that'll help run, like the Provo Film Alliance, where we'll probably have a director that helps with this. But I've been the executive director of a few different nonprofits, and I'm comfortable hiring and managing people and managing and with a board of directors. And so we just need to find that talent that's going to help run the facility.
I know a good projectionist.
Oh, good.
Okay.
I'd be happy to help.
Excellent.
Are the rights,
Sign me
to get films to show, are they pretty expensive or how?
300 to 500, depending
They're
on the
not
film.
terribly expensive, but they're the biggest
They're
cost
weird.
is the headache navigating. Every single film has different hoops, and the different hoops just have all these goofy different rules,
Wow.
and it's an enormous undertaking as far as effort.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe $500 tops.
The
but-
Mavens were talking about, they sort of planned out what they wanted to do, which films they wanted to show, and then they'd contact the distributor and say, no, that film's not available for another 2 months.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because it's not.
Yeah.
And just,
So those are the hoops.
Yeah.
just weird thing, and there's,
And especially when you're doing classic films, often it's somebody's grandma that owns the rights. And it's a matter of getting a hold of that person and working out the deal. And it's a lot of headache.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Okay.
I think that's
I'm-
the biggest cost.
I'm T-minus 3 minutes.
Yep.
I know.
Anything else?
I have one thing you ought to look at. So the film Inception was 2010, right?
Yep. Remember
And
well.
right now, it's being re-released, and it's this, you can't even hardly get tickets for it. I don't know what
Yeah,
they're
right.
doing,
It's
but it's
crazy.
being re-released in
Yeah.
IMAX theaters, and
Yeah.
it's like going crazy.
Yeah.
If you can figure out that secret, whatever's making that work,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
might be a good thing to look at.
Can you expand your screen to IMAX?
Yeah.
We're going to show it on, we'll show it on the outside of the building. Just
There you
stand
go.
out here.
27 feet.
Yeah.
Where you see
We're going to do the sphere.
Yeah. We have a fun relationship with A24, and they expressed interest. We actually did some screenings of theirs during COVID. Minari, a lot of the theaters weren't open, and so to get it's considered for an Academy Award, they had to show them, and so anyway, we became an outlet. We did fundraisers for Velour.
Backyard.
Yeah, not quite. We did them at Velour, but
Isn't that
they're
the-
very excited and interested. And they've done a lot of the re-release. They re-released the Talking Heads live show thing, and they did that in IMAX, and that's been very successful. Anyhow, they're excited about this theater in Provo because they don't really have a good stadium
Awesome.
available right now.
Isn't that the company that released Heretic?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll be showing
Great
that
film.
at midnight every night.
You can get faculty at BYU and UVU to critics and that teach films kind of stuff. And then they, of course, have got a lot of students. You can get
Yeah.
interns. You
Yeah.
need to pack in interns helping
Sure.
manage
It's
this
true.
whole-
It's true.
Pay them eventually, some of them.
So that'll be a lot on the board. We plan to have seats on the board for UVU and BYU that can
Yes.
help us manage these sort of internships. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, so
Well done. I appreciate it. We'll keep in touch.
Yeah. I
Exciting.
can stick around if you want to add some more stuff. And okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I'm sad I was late, but I came here straight from a production just to
Okay.
catch what I could. So excited for what you guys are doing.
And I'm the one that
You're
takes the
working.
notes anyway. So any other kind of comments, we'll get them in here.
I was timid to take to any of his time.
Sure,
before
sure.
he left, but I'm a music and audio guy,
Cool.
and as a music and audio, just everything to me.
Yeah.
Atmos. I'm curious if you guys are doing, and what level of audio quality.
Don't know. That's largely in Clayco's hands.
Okay.
Just we started to talk to music and sound engineers to figure it out on our own, and it got really complicated. And then we realized, oh wait, there's people that do this whole package,
Yeah.
and so that's what we're letting Clayco steer us on, and we'll see. Because we were gathering data that was saying stuff like, oh well, the pitch of your ceiling has to be X to get the right sound, this and that, and it was just. But then the projection people disagreed because of whatever, and it was just what. So we're leaving it largely in Clayco's hands for now.
What is your phone number?
You ready?
Yeah.
801-372-6147.
You might have to have several options depending on what the
Yeah.
filmmaker brings. You might have to have 7.1 Dolby or
Sure.
whatever. You might have to have several options.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say because if you're going to use it as a screening place too, if you were to get certification
Yeah.
on Atmos and Dolby, whatever else, it could be a powerful audio production house too.
Yeah.
During the morning hours or whenever.
Well, and we haven't revisited this yet, but basically we plan to put together what Clayco can give us and what we can afford. And then Angel Studios has said that they want to then bridge the gap because they're having to bust their team up to West Valley to do their screenings and testings right now and their premieres because that's what has their sufficient sound and audio quality. And so they want to make sure that we have that in our facility.
Right.
Good.
And so they've verbally committed to help us bridge that gap financially to be to that point. We also want to make sure we have at least the minimum for Sundance because Sundance has certain standards. And I know that their standards are lower than Angel Studios, So I'm hopeful we can land somewhere between the Sundance standards and what Angel Studios wants to do their premieres.
And Angel Studios is Provo based. Right?
Yeah, they're right across the street from where we're at.
Yeah.
So they're hyped on it. We've talked a lot with them throughout this process. we don't understand everything Angel Studios is going through. They've got a lot of ups and downs, and
Yeah.
they've, losing the Chosen, they laid off a bunch of people. It's just, so we're just not exactly sure. We visited with them again, and they said, yeah, we're still game. And we're like, really? Okay. I don't know. So we'll see.
Well, my offices are just a few blocks away from Center Street in Provo as well, so
Cool.
pretty close.
Yeah, there's a whole, and so actually, one of the first times that I had this realization of the need for this facility is that Tom, when he talked about the Studebaker Studios that he built. It's called the Bright Building now. He built that specifically for the film industry. So there's a soundstage there. Harmon Brothers were a partner in the corner. Everyone in that facility were film centric. And the reason that was done is because in 2016, the city paid for an economic development study of Provo. And it compares Provo to the national average, other cities that are our same size. And they look at type of employment and compensation. And when it came to film production, Provo was 5 times the national average.
Wow.
And we knew it was something, it was more than normal, but to have this report that quantified it was like, holy smokes. There's a lot going on. So to your point, whether it's Kaleidoscope, your shop, Angel Studios, there's so many more that are happening. We realized, why isn't the city leaning into this a little more to embrace this natural momentum with facilities and things like this?
You should come on January 8th when we have the head of the Film Commission.
Sure.
And also the person who runs the entire film incentive
Yeah.
program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's actually another part of our pitch, and we'll tell them about that. I think I can do the 8th. I'm doing freshman orientation at BYU. Which I think is that same day. I don't know. I'll check. But so the Utah County Film Commission seat is with the convention center right now because they're the tourism marketing group, but they don't give a crap about film. They don't know anything about film. They're nothing to do with film. And so we have asked, hey, would you be offended if we just requested that our director, general manager, becomes the Utah County Film Commission seat? And they said, yeah, we'd love you to take it. So once this gets up and running, that will be our plan, is that our director.
Were those numbers on 5 times, was that just the Provo area or Utah Valley?
That was Provo City.
Provo City,
was
specifically.
yeah. I mean, it's been numbers.
what?
5 times the national average when compared to other cities are similar demographic and population.
5 times of what?
Film production.
Oh, the amount
So
of.
and
film
that was not necessarily feature films. That includes YouTube's commercials, TV, film, but
Still,
film production.
church production too.
Yeah, was 5 times the national average. So it was quite high. Yeah, and so that's why it was also just so frustrating when my friends were making films like this. For me, a big motivator was the Killing of 2 Lovers was made by some professors at BYU, and they did their premiere at the Cinemark in Provo with a karaoke machine, and I was so blown away with the product. I loved the film, and I thought, this is pathetic that this is where they're premiering this with flashlights. They had flashlights to shine on them while they were doing their battery-powered thing. So we hope we can better meet those needs. But yeah, it's been really bootstrapped because Tom and I both are not really the people to run all of this, and Tom and I don't really have any way to make any money on this, but we've spent years and years on this project.
Wow.
And so Tom's comfortable, I'm not. So I'm hopeful that me being the executive director is going to be one of the things where if everything else is covered and there's a little bit of money left over, it can help pay me to run this thing.
It's a passion project.
Well,
Yeah.
he mentioned it 4.5 years ago here.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
You know what kills passion pretty fast though? Starvation.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is I have more than a full-time job already running the Downtown Business Alliance, and so the hope is that I can balance those things.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the film world.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how it
I
goes.
know.
Say again, Quinn, what's your,
Quinn Peterson.
but I mean, Quinn, what's the name of your cinema thing? Quinn?
Oh, the Quiniplex. Yeah. I'm an artist of sorts. I make all sorts of things. I do clothing, I build cars, I just finished a massive treehouse build. I do some YouTube stuff. But anyway, I say that because I do chain stitch, and I have a sign painter friend out in Oregon, and he's a full-time sign painter, but whenever it comes to Utah for jobs, I chain stitch his jumpsuits, his jackets, and we trade for sign painting. So he did a nice Quiniplex large illuminated sign that is on. We have a shipping container connected to the carriage house, and it is on that. And so the photos, when you look up Provo Theaters, is
How many
Quiniplex.
seats?
It's just 2 large sectionals. You can fit like 15 to 18 pretty comfortably. It's just where our neighborhood watches Survivor on Wednesdays and Godfather on Sundays and that sort of stuff. But several of our neighbors, because we've had this long enough, they don't have, for their family, they don't have TVs in their home. But they come over almost every day with their kids at some time they just schedule with us. And
That's so cool.
they didn't want to. So they just use our, they're like, hey, if we want to watch a movie, we just go to Quinn's place. So that's what we do. Yeah. What else? Any other thoughts or questions as of now? I'm sure we'll talk further, but
I would suggest for everybody here to be brainstorming how we can not only be of help here, but this
Sure.
is the whole purpose of having this group Visionaries from April of 2020 when we started is that we want to raise the quality of filmmaking here in Utah.
Yeah.
And in a major way. And I think, and all of us think, that we have the talent base here.
Yeah.
And we also have the heart and the courage and purpose.
Well, and interestingly, right when we began this process, we went to the Salt Lake Film Society to ask for help. Say, hey, would you share this or any suggestions or tips? And they just basically said, more than a quarter of our revenue comes from Provo, so no, we're not going to help you. But for us, it was like, holy crap! Like more than a quarter?
Yeah.
That's enormous to think that many people are making that commute.
Yeah.
What if we were here? And for the Mavens to say, everyone that came to our thing were BYU and UVU students.
Yeah.
And so we're hopeful that there's enough here.
Yeah.
That's not very significant market research, but it makes us feel good.
BYU Magazine could do a nice article on
Sure,
this. Charles
sure.
Cranny is the guy to talk to there. And then the whole BYU alumni, it needs to go out. I keep
Yeah.
wanting to say, we got to think big.
Yeah.
We got to think a little place here that has a huge
Yeah.
group, and you're making money from those people that are dying and wanting to be part of
Yeah.
this thing.
Yeah, and with the international cinema, our plan initially, the person in charge has changed because we've been working on this for so many years. But initially, the idea was that 1 full day a week we were going to collaborate for the international cinema to be in the facility.
Excellent.
I don't know if that's still possible, and the way that we're now looking at monetization and distribution, it's a little more tricky than we initially thought. But we want to be able to tie into those programs as heavily as we can.
And I feel bad because I missed the beginning.
The other
Yeah.
independent cinema in the area is the Sarah.
Yeah.
Have you talked with them and picked their
We
brains?
have not actually, no.
When you talk to Michelle and Marshall,
Yeah.
that's where they hold Zip.
Yeah.
So you can get that information.
Yeah.
Like 2 birds.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
So are you guys doing like a film pass kind of thing where people can just pay like a monthly subscription and just like show up and
it's,
participate in things, or?
We have to figure that out. The way that a lot of the distribution works, they don't allow that. So,
Really?
yeah, it's so you know how when you're like a Cinemark member, you just get like discounts on concessions and a few other things like that.
Yeah, right.
That's because of the way distribution is created. It can't necessarily take much off the ticket cost. So we're looking at some creative ways to do stuff like that. So we want to have the membership that can give access to the online streaming for the discussions. We want to have a membership that can give access to, discounts at concessions and such, and a handful of other perks, but we still will need to charge for tickets. What we might be able to do, though, is sell booklets of prepaid tickets. Yeah, it's just navigating distribution, especially when you're not going to do full-time, first-time screenings.
Yeah.
When you're working with a lot of these classic films, it's just managing the distribution rights is really, really
Well,
hard.
and with 100 seats, you almost can't make it a free-for-all because.
Sure.
Well, I just thought the film
Sure.
pass thing was set up where it's like you paid a monthly thing, and then it was just like you purchased the ticket, but it was like you were given like 1 or 2 free a month. Or
Yeah,
something.
there might be a way to do it. We just need to navigate the legality of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can get a discount on your distribution if you have 99 seats.
Yeah. Well, and technically our theater has 96, but then we have the 2 VIP rooms, and then we did give our whole front row as the ADA, where we're actually going to have removable seats. And so I think our real number's like 105, but like 96 fixed seats in the auditorium. So,
But that could be a good
That's
way
kinda
to
where we're
get
at.
your, like, people's phone numbers, contact information,
Yeah,
and everything
yeah.
set up that way.
yeah, and like Tom mentioned, for the kids stuff, we want that to be a membership because there's different distribution things. So, yeah, we have a few paths.
That you're looking at.
Yeah.
What's your total square footage of the building?
I don't remember. Yeah, I mean, 100 feet deep, 27 wide, and then 3 stories. One thing we didn't talk about, and I'm going to stand up here as if the picture's here, even though it's not. We had half of it, it's a little more than half, is like the screening auditorium. It is a relatively large lobby, and one of the reasons we did that was the feedback that we got from festivals and from filmmakers.
Yep.
We want to have a dedicated step and repeat area for red carpets, for photos. You know, the amount of the distance people would travel to go to a facility that was screening Barbie with a Barbie box that they could take a picture of inside of,
wow.
you know, was enormous. And so if we can have a dedicated area in that front lobby where we can have a backdrop, even if it's just generic Provo Cinema and it's just a cute Provo Cinema backdrop, everyone's going to Instagram about it. But then if we can have a more proper, if we're doing a special feature like the Mavens, not their name, but the Mavens, they did overnight passes where you would see all the Harry Potter movies and you would get meals and so on. So doing things like that, if we could build a proper Harry Potter backdrop for the week that we're doing that, you know. So that's a reason that we built up that lobby in such a way. So that'll be one side. The other side will be concessions counter and then pickup window on the street. So
The
that we
Sarah
can service
Theater
it.
has that same kind of area and uses it in,
Ah.
and it seems well used.
Did you say 3 stories?
Yeah, 3 stories just over the lobby, so that we can have behind the projection room and then the 2 VIP rooms and then kind of an office / apartment space and then apartment. Really just so that we can monetize the overall cost to Tom
Yeah.
with those other spaces.
Well, because I do know when Warren and them did the Utah Film Awards up in, was it Springville or Spanish Fork? I always forget which one. American Fork is north. I do know it was a little bit weird because they had the 2 screenings, but then like, you know, we would screen our film and then like be talking to people, and there was no space to actually like go and talk and like socialize in terms of.
So we
like,
hope the lobby is going to be
festival.
built up to accommodate. You can go get treats, you can hang out. We're going to have standing tables.
Posters up. and-
Yeah, the lobby can be a space for that. Is the hope.
And I feel like that's the same issue with the lore for Film Quest too. Is,
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
I'd be networking with someone and it's like,
Sure.
this next movie's starting, like everyone's gonna be quiet.
Yeah,
Like,
shut up, get out of here. Yeah.
On your architecture plan there, I noticed the big space over top
Yeah.
of the theater area. What are you doing with that one?
Well, we were just looking at cost, like how expensive is it to actually just fully take that 3rd story over the whole auditorium to make a bigger apartment or something. And it was, if it's, you know, only this much more expensive to use it, then we can monetize the building better. So the idea is an apartment.
So you'll have people living up there that could just walk down
We
and
hope.
watch movies.
We hope.
Well, you
I
got
think
this
that's smart.
guy right here that knows all about how to do this stuff he did it for the LDS Film Festival forever, and how to put the things where they need to be to, you know, the step and repeat and the
Right.
posters and the things.
Right. Yeah.
Pro over there.
And we haven't worked with you yet. We worked with Jonathan quite a lot with Film Quest, but
He's got
yeah.
answers.
Well, and I remember
answers.
when he was starting this process 5 years ago, and
Yeah.
we would meet before COVID. We would sit and talk about, you know, what to do and how to do it, and then COVID stopped everything. And
Yeah.
we never had to. But it would be good to know. It would be good to kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I know everything. Thanks, guys, for all your.
He's a
nice
good
people.
resource. Good resource.
But I'm happy to to go in and just talk about, and a lot of it's the same conceptual stuff you've already known, that I'm listening to, and that's why I'm kind of hoping that, I personally am hoping that the upper parts have offices
Yes.
rather than apartments.
Yeah.
Like, and preferably entertainment related
Yeah.
offices, whether it be film or whether it be something else. But just because I feel like that would be very related to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially
And-
so close to Angel Studios.
Yeah, and I mean, this is like, cart before the horse, is a little bit of a pipe dream still, but right immediately adjacent to the property is Foxglove, the flower shop.
Oh,
Yeah.
They don't do anything with their second floor. And we've talked to the landlord and the current tenant, and they're totally on board for us to just pop a hole in the wall and do 2 other small screening rooms.
Wow.
Or other office or whatever that may be. Now, that's once this gets figured. But we are accounting for that in our floor plans so that we can line up height-wise and pop a hole in the wall and connect.
That's so cool.
Because it'd be really cool if we could add 2, because those it'd be like 2 other smaller screening rooms. It'd be more like 20 seats-ish.
That's a game changer.
Yeah, but to have that expandability just a little bit there is neat. And again, that's just been conversations with the other property owners and everything, and everyone's on board. But we just want to get this box done, get this box under construction.
Yeah.
Because I think once we also know, hey, Clayco comes back and it's $200,000 for projector screen, whatever else we need. And the popcorn machine is this, and once we kind of, the building's under construction, we know exactly what the costs are. It's a lot easier for us to then go to donors and say, here's what we've got. It's not a theory. We're under construction. Here's what our remaining costs are. Here's the gap we're trying to bridge. So anyway, we just want to get the plans approved by the city and start construction so that we can then start giving real asks. So that people know it's going to be delivered.
I know it's a crazy pie in the sky idea, but I love the idea of maybe like a 3rd or 4th floor being like a mini motel, like kind of thing. Because you have so many people.
So we are in a zone that
out
we
of
can
state.
Airbnb. So one of the things that we also talked about was that hosting festivals is that this would not be long-term rentals, but short-term rentals. So we could use these apartments for filmmakers. So we use these apartments for the festivals.
Well, and I was at AFM this year in Vegas, and like they just converted all of the hotel rooms into office spaces for all of the different like distributors.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so like when we went and met with like Premier Entertainment Group and Candlelight and a bunch of other places, they had like a specific tower, and you would just go in and you're like, okay, I need to hit floor 5 because it's got these groups, and you go up and they just had all their signs out of like each room that was normally a hotel room, but then you'd walk in, it was like all set up for them. So yeah, so you could do all kinds of intriguing stuff with that.
They do that at Sundance too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we have other space that, whether it's Airbnb or office, is hopefully just help cover the cost.
Yeah. So is it zoned for residential as well?
Mm-hmm.
So
it is. Yep, it is. It just is that if we do, whatever we do in addition to the theater does require parking. So we've talked with the rent-a-center landlord because they have a parking lot they don't use at night. And so they seem open to the idea of having a lease for some stalls that could accommodate apartments. And the city has also given a verbal approval that they're fine with that. There's that contaminated lot right behind our piece that could be a surface lot. We just don't want to have to cover the whole cost ourselves.
Right.
So we're trying to partner with one of the other neighboring businesses. The City Limits Bar is for sale right now, so we've been working with people to buy that for another business, and they could partner with us on that contaminated lot so we could share costs to make that into a surface parking lot.
You mean the bar's not doing well in Provo? Weird.
Well, the bars actually do great.
I was gonna say, I think the bars
The
do
bars
really
do great.
well.
The problem is that grandma died and the kids all hate each other's guts, and so they fought and they sold the building and split the money and it fell apart.
So
Wow.
contaminated, what? Plutonium 238?
It was a lube and oil joint, so brake cleaner and all that junk's in the dirt, and so they can't. So basically, the DEQ came out. That's what took 3 years for our RFP. Is because it's immediately adjacent to our property, and the city didn't want to sell it if it was like a horrible red flag. Basically, you can pave it and you're safe, But if you excavate and build a structure there, there's huge remediation costs.
Oh.
So
Wow.
that we want to partner with one or two of those neighbors to buy that lot, make it a parking lot,
And then have that space for everyone.
and then we can all share it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's also not needed to build it. We're not even going to talk about it with the city because then they might decide they want to require it. So we're just
Yep.
focused on the building. Then we'll worry about parking later, whether it's that or leasing something from these guys or whatever.
Yeah,
I see.
smart.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where we're at.
I like the idea of doing a mix in that theater because
A what?
you have film mix.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. We
And-
gotta sneak out real
Yeah,
quick
no
here.
problem.
Oops.
Because that's where I mixed
Kel's good
the
to see you
film.
again.
I don't know if you remember Salzans
Oh, yeah.
up in Berkeley. I mixed the film there, and it was so nice to be able to see it on the big screen and be able to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
See you, Kels.
keep that.
We will.
Yeah.
So we've talked with the one of the guys that does that for Angel Studios, and he talked about specific hardware to plug in the facility to do that. And
Yeah.
So whatever that is, we hope to do.
Yeah,
Is
that
there,
could
I mean,
become-
just a technical question, is there no way that people can go into a big space and all click on and say, I want to watch this on Netflix, or I want to watch it someplace,
Yeah.
and I just want to watch it on that screen right there?
Right.
Is there no way that can be done?
I don't know. I mean, it's going to just depend on how fast and loose Tom and I want to run this because, like the Mavens, for example, they had, in their 9 months, they had countless examples of agents the distributors sent into their facility to see that they were doing it all right and to count the amount of heads that were there. They got dinged for some of their ushers watching the movie without buying a ticket.
What?
So,
Wow.
like
That's strict.
yeah, according to the Mavens, so.
I'm just trying to see blurred together
I know,
the online and
I
the
know,
other, and
I know.
there must
So we'll see as we start doing stuff. But the thing is, like, if you get listed as someone who violates, you're not going to get distribution from some of these people anymore.
Ugh.
So I don't know. It's frustrating and complicated to get all these approvals. But again, it's not that financially expensive, but just the hoops are a lot. And
I can imagine.
I mean, like they gave us this whole story. They wanted to do a sing along with Mamma Mia or Sound of Music, and I guess the sing along rights are owned by a different family than the traditional screening rights. But they didn't know that, and so they got the traditional screening rights, and then they marketed it as a sing along, and then they got contacted by the people that were like, well, actually, you can't do that because of this. So then after they said, okay, we're not going to do that, and they changed their marketing stuff, they got an email from someone saying, well, I saw that this was originally a sing-along. Can I come and sing along? And so they did not ever respond because they thought it was a trap, and they looked up the info, and it was someone from the family that owned the sing-along rights.
It was a Von trap.
Wow.
Yeah.
Number 2.
So anyway, it's like they've got, in their 9 months, they've got a lot of scary stories with distribution that make us a little leery
Seems
with.
like a lot of people with way too much time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a big job, like you said. All the rights.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Where was that Mavens Theater again?
Pleasant Grove.
American Fork.
Oh, is it American Fork? Yeah,
right
American
on
Fork.
Main Street.
Right on,
right there.
on
Yeah.
State.
Yeah, it's
Right.
the old
State.
theater that was.
Town
down at the
Cinema?
cinema.
Wasn't it Town Cinema at one time?
Or water.
It's
Water Gardens.
Or is it Water?
Yeah, it was.
That's a multiplex.
Not Water
It's just a
Garden.
single,
This is up in
So it's
in
State
the
Street
center.
and it's Main Street in American
Oh,
Fork.
so
They
Yeah.
have
one
a
on
little
that Main
historic
Street.
strip,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it has 2 screens in that.
That
The
was
sign is
cool.
still up that says Mavens, but
Oh, okay.
the facility had a church in it and 2 other offices and a few other things. There was some sort of electrical fire, and the landlord's just been MIA, and no one's been let back in since the fire, which was like a year ago. So.
I was wondering what happened with
Did
that.
they say they were able to be profitable in the 9 months they were doing it? What did they tell you about that?
They were not really. It was more a passion project for them.
I was gonna say most businesses aren't profitable the first year. Like
Yeah.
Your magic thing right here is 3 apartments. I mean, if you
Yeah,
can rent
right.
out 3 apartments,
Yeah.
that can keep the thing going.
Keep the cost way low is the real goal, and we hope we can manage volunteers. We've got ideas for people who want to be a part of the Film Alliance, if they volunteer for 1 shift a month, then that gets them in free for the Alliance. And then if we can just have someone that can efficiently manage volunteers, you know, I don't know. We got high hopes. We'll see. I was the director at the Farmers Market for a few years before I was the director of downtown. And so I feel semi-confident managing these sorts of things, but I don't know. Tom and I we don't really know how any of this works. So.
Talking to the syrup people will help you with the volunteers. They have a big volunteer program there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
In
fact, I have a really good friend that's part of that volunteer group, so maybe I'll contact him.
And Tom did text me. He said, make sure you give them all our phone number and email if anybody wants or has ideas. So if anybody wants or needs our contact info, we'd love to make it available. Or if someone sends it out or whatever.
We can send it out to the Visionary group.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, both me and Tom. Yeah.
We are happy to be part of this.
Yeah, cool.
To be of support.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, again, like we've said, we care to get it done and we care about film, but we know that we're not really the experts in some of the details and the nitty-gritty of how it gets done. So that's why now we're trying to gather as much support and insight as we can.
Yeah, those fields normally don't go hand in hand with each other.
Yeah.
There's a reason why all the studios went bankrupt.
Yeah.
It was controlled by the
Well, and the hard thing, like I said, everyone was so hyperbolic initially. Like some people were like, it has to be this way, it's going to fail. And Tom and I are like, oh, okay. And then we talked to someone else like, it has to be this way, it's going to fail. Like, wait, but that's different than what this guy said. And then we got everyone in the same room, and then they were all fighting about what it needed to be, and we were just like, okay, you know what? Never mind. We're not going to talk to any of you. We're just going to build a theater, and then we'll come back to you guys. So that's kind of what we did. But
nice.
Any other questions or input here?
Yeah,
it's fantastic what you guys do.
It is.
Yeah, we're hopeful and excited, and city's excited. So now they're pressuring us to get it done, and that's great.
So the estimated finishing is what?
I'd say a year and a half.
2026.
Yeah,
probably.
I think we'll break ground spring or summer, and then it'll probably take about a year for construction.
2026.
Rough estimate.
Yeah.
Do you have your construction company picked?
No, Tom's worked with a handful, so we're just going to send it out to a few. See who's the best bid.
I know a good one if you want.
Okay, cool.
I'll keep my fingers crossed for you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Sure
got
appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah, like Tom maybe mentioned, I just had a baby, so this is actually my first meeting out of the house.
Did you get any sleep?
Congrats.
Yeah, we're sort of figuring it out, but
First job?
yeah.
Congrats.
Change your life.
We'll be in touch.
Okay,
Thank you
sounds
so
good.
much.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Before we all head out, let's just real quickly around the table, any needs or where you're at on the
Updates.
project,
News.
that sort of thing. Yeah, updates. Let's go, Brandon,
do
let's
it.
go with you first and we'll go counterclockwise.
Yeah, sure. We just got our AFM report from our distributor on our latest Cinderella movie, and it was all really positive. I think they've got sales locked in. They passed the 6 figures or whatever, and they're super positive and enthusiastic about the potentials for the next sales. They've got like 13 pending negotiations going on, so like it's all looking really positive. It seems really good. So
What do you need?
Here in the U.S., but beyond?
Who's the distributor?
Beyond
No,
the
they,
US, or?
Premier Entertainment
Premier
Group.
Entertainment.
Yeah, so they signed a domestic licensing deal that even gave us a minimum guarantee with ITN. I think they generally do more like thriller horror type stuff. I think they've distributed like the Winnie the Pooh horror movies, like Blood and Honey or something like that. But they're all wanting to kind of get into the Hallmark market, and so they've all been making some aggressive offers for domestic licensing and whatnot. And then, from what I understand, they sold like Germany and Netherlands, Belgium, and a couple of other areas over in Europe. So,
Meaning with your.
Who is that?
yeah, Premier Entertainment Group. So they're our distributor that we've licensed to sell our movie like out in the market. We gave them domestic and international rights. So.
Why did you choose them over Candlelight that does rom-coms?
So Candlelight has been really good to us in terms of like the streaming market, but they haven't really been doing much in terms of broadcast licensing sales. And so we've been making like good money with them, and we feel like they've been honest with their reporting and everything. So we've been happy with that in that sense. But we don't want to have all of our eggs in one basket. And Premier Entertainment Group has reached out to us for some other films that Candlelight had first right of refusal on before, but we've shown them the movie, said somebody else had first right of refusal, and they're like, well, next one, like, please send it like our way. And they came in with a really aggressive offer. They're really excited about our movie, where I feel like Candlelight Media were just kind of the, like, oh yeah, like we'll just take that and we'll put it out there on streaming and
whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
So when you say offer, what do you mean?
Let me.
Without numbers, what I mean, is it a structure where they give you a guaranteed amount, or
so
it's a better?
Yeah, a couple of things. Like they really wanted the movie. And so they were willing to offer us a MG agreement, and so that's something that I heard is kind of not common for romance type movies, especially like Hallmark style type of stuff. They also came in with much lower percentages in terms of the cuts that they would take for domestic and international sales. I'll say that they came in on the low end of what percentage distribution companies normally take, where Candlelight Media's kind of sit on the high end for us, and then Candlelight Media produces a lot of their own content and sells it, and Premier Entertainment Group is distribution only. They only sell other people's movies, and from what the person told us, they don't try to take in a lot of films and just like throw them all out there, but they'll select like 10 movies to really champion and push for that year and to market and strategize with. And so I really liked their kind of setup and approach to it. I've liked what Candlelight Media has done for us as well, and I talked to Rob, my business partner, about it. I was like, it's kind of a risk though, because we don't know where they're at. But the conversation really came down to is, when is it not going to be a risk to branch out and try, networking with other distribution companies and seeing who works and doesn't work.
And you get it all in writing too.
Yeah, you get everything in writing, but you never know if people are going to do dirty accounting.
You don't know if they're going to do creative.
Yeah, like people might just blow smoke like up your cape and then not make any money off of everything. And so again, like until we get paychecks, like who knows, how everything's going to go. But like that's kind of the business that we work in. So we need to build up those relationships and those deals, and this felt like a good one to take that chance with them. We've been happy so far. So that's been super positive. Of course, all of our money is tied up in Bookworm and the Beast and Cinderella and Love and Focus, but all of those are out there now and paying back investors and everybody. And so we're just kind of, again, in this weird place where it's like, well, we've pushed all of our money in this kind of stuff, so what are we going to do now? And so we're actually just trying to find funds wherever we can and just make as many movies as possible to get out into the market, whether that's here's like a $400,000 rom-com, or here's $4,000 and we're going in the woods and shooting a horror. Like who knows? All we know is we're getting antsy and wanting to produce more content, and so this next year we're wanting to shoot like 3 or 4 more features.
The next Blair Witch.
The next Blair Witch project.
Shot for 6,000 and made 40 billion.
Yeah, I mean, like horror does well because the audience is really forgiving in terms of that type of content creation.
Quality.
And quality, because you can have everything that's on the level of like Heretic or Nosferatu that's coming out later this month, all the way down to you know, some kind of monster outfit where you can see the zipper on the back. Like, people love that kind of stuff. Like, there's different niches and markets and things that you can try to tap into. And so I am a huge horror aficionado, so I'm excited with the aspect of like shooting a horror movie. I've got one that I'm actually mid draft right now.
People go to those. I mean, they love them. I mean, you get a built-in audience.
Yeah.
A built-in audience.
Yeah.
You can make a lot of money.
You can. I feel like you can make a lot of money, like, in a lot of different places. The real problem is, like, how much is it going to cost? How much do you get back on it? And how can you, like, make those numbers work in your favor? And that's half the battle, right? So that's kind of where we're sitting with stuff. So if you guys, know people that are looking to make movies or have like little pockets of funds they want to invest or something, like we'll take a look at it and roll with whatever we can roll with. Because right now we're just kind of wanting to just make movies. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good. Thank you then.
Yep.
Doug?
I'm just freelancing right now. My editing. I started Intercut Productions a few months ago. Here with Doug, but just out and about, trying to drum up some business for that. Got the church interested in me and doing some freelance. Some other companies too that I'm reaching out to. So I'm just in that freelance world. I'm back in the freelance world.
Yeah, well,
after being. What? Welcome back.
Well, welcome back to the fun, choppy waters.
Well, I'm in a good position because I'm semi-retired, so I can kind of, but I gotta still work.
You don't have to say yes because your child's gonna starve tomorrow.
Yeah, because I have to. So.
Yeah.
All my kids are out of the house.
Yeah.
So it's just my wife and I. So, but I enjoy working. I mean, I cut a few things the other day for somebody, and
nice.
I was going, gosh, I love editing. That's what I do, and I love it. I mean, it's fun. It's fun work, and I have it in my house, so I can just go downstairs to my basement, my edit bay. Honey, I'm going to the edit bay. See you next week. No, I'm down there, and fortunately, Doug was really gracious enough to let me take my system that I had here, and to set it up. So I'm set up to cut films, cut TV, cut commercials, cut whatever.
Nice.
Documentaries.
So
I would love to cut a documentary. I think.
Yeah.
If I could.
So during the summer, my wife wants me to edit the lawn.
You mean cut?
So I do the edit. I do the rough cut, and then she comes around with the
the trimmer.
Cut.
It does the fine cut.
Fine cut, yeah. So.
That's a good combination. So that's where I'm at.
Robert,
I wish I could get my wife to help. I have to do the rough cut and
the fine cut.
Did you want to talk to TV a little bit?
Yeah.
I'll add
as
some
we've
on that.
mentioned before, Robert and I are involved in a project that has kind of gained a little bit of new life in the last week or so. This is the Tuca TV, which is the satellite children's program channel that we want to do in Iran and Afghanistan, which we would take vintage American children's programming and family shows and translate them into Farsi and do the voice dubbing and all that and broadcast free-to-air satellite into Iran and Afghanistan, and then simultaneously stream it worldwide over the internet. And we had a really great Zoom meeting this week with Donna Montgomery. She and her husband are missionaries in, they have two homes, one here in Utah and one down in California. and they are serving a mission with the Persian-speaking branch in Laguna Beach, California. I think it's, or is it in Irvine?
Irvine.
Okay. And Donna is Lance Montgomery's mother. So we, and he'll be able to introduce himself, but we are really excited about being able to move forward with that project. And the only thing that's been holding us back, I mean, we've done all the research and the planning and all that. The only thing that's really been holding us back is getting the funding to get it off the ground. It'll be self-sustaining and hopefully actually profit-making once it's going, because it's a commercial channel that we're doing. And but we just need the initial investment funding to get it off the ground. And hopefully Lance's mom's going to be able to help us with that. She has a lot of connections in that regard. But I'm just kind of excited that this project that we've been working on, 5-6 years now,
Wow.
hopefully we'll have some new life and be able to move forward.
Did you get a new website for it again, or did you?
Lance is helping us, along with another recent addition to our team, Gibran Castillo.
Okay.
Is a web genius or
Okay.
whatever, and so we're developing the website right now. So
Good.
that's the main thing that.
While we're on the topic then, Lance, if you want to tell us your background a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm a BYU grad. I went through the music program. In fact, you look really familiar. Were you there during pre-2010?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. We should chat afterwards.
Yeah,
I'm sure we've got some connection or something.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
So what aspect of music? I mean, what
So I graduated in film, in music composition. So I'm classically trained. I had the visions of Hollywood grandeur going in, and I decided not to move to California after graduating. I just wanted to plant here, started a family here. So I worked in the film industry for a little bit while I was in my undergrad and a little bit after. I scored 3 feature films and quickly learned that it's not lucrative. A lot. As a composer, I mean, that there are remarkably few films being made versus the video game industry, which is where I went next. So I've been doing that since, and I've enjoyed the heck out of it. It's a very different crop of people than the film group, but.
Fantastic work going on in the gaming world.
Yeah, and there's just so much. There's so much to do.
So you have a sampling system or Sibelius, or what do you?
Yeah, and so I actually do use Sibelius, and I still, contrary to what most composers out there do in the entertainment industry, where they compose at a keyboard and lay this tracks out, as long as it's not going to be performed by a real orchestra, they lay it out on the keyboard. I don't do it that way. I write the traditional way, notes as if a real orchestra was going to play it still, even though that never happens. So video game industry was great, and I'm still doing it, but I'm now just getting my fingers in all sorts of other things. I'm hoping to get back into doing film again because I miss it. But I've got way too much going on. I'm too ambitious for my own good. I'm working on some narrative things. I'm working on blind accessible games that are audio only games that are narrative driven. I'm writing children's songs, children's books. Me and my family my mom, who you're talking about, franchised a chip cookies store in Irvine. So I'm way too busy, but trying to get busier anyway. so I'm here kind of to network, but also just I want to be more involved in the arts happening around in this area. I want to be more of a part in growing the arts here. So I'm hoping to keep coming to these meetings and getting to know more of you and play more part of it. Yeah, and so I'm going to be working with Robert a bit on the Suka TV too. I'm not sure at what capacity, but I'd love to go the mile. Like I'd love to do some creative directing and yeah. So thanks for having me here.
Good. Welcome. What were can you name the titles of the features?
Yeah, so I did Diantha's Crossing while I was in my undergrad, and then I did The Maze horror film, and then The Adventures of a Robo-Rex.
Okay.
And while I was there too, I scored the BYU animated film Dream Giver.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked on Danthus Crossing.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. Did some production audio for that
Okay,
one.
cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Barda Heiner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There,
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh man, she I want to say she also taught like children's acting or something.
I know she taught acting.
And
anyway, yeah.
I just know whenever I had anyone come in and audition, and I saw her like class like under their headshot or whatever, like you knew. You're like, oh, they're just an extra caliber of something added to them when they interacted with Barda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you graduate from BU?
That was 2010.
Okay. I guess Merrill Jensen was teaching some story
Yeah.
back then?
I think he was there, yeah.
Good. Good. Thank you then.
Yeah, thank you.
I had talked with you probably 6 weeks ago or so about a couple of date options. And I think you had mentioned January 8th, Wednesday, is workable. And that's when I've talked with Virginia Pierce, she's available, and also Derek Mellis. So you're okay with January 8th, yeah? I'll put the word out. Good. And while we're at it then, you want to comment on how things are going?
So I'm Doug Fowkes, the owner of this place, Infomercials Inc. Infomercials kind of faded out, and so we tried our hand at movie making, and I'm still trying to figure out how all the distribution works.
It's a beast.
Well, here's where I'm at right now. So you've got a bunch of smaller distributors, and the smaller distributors can get you maybe $1 million back on your film, $2 million if you're real lucky. The big Hollywood people, they want bigger budgets. They want big actors, built-in audiences. They want more. And so I'm kind of stuck in the middle of that, between the small ones and the big ones. We got a whole bunch of small distributors that want our film, but none of us can pay us back what we have in it. And so we're holding out for the bigger ones, but the bigger ones want, they want even bigger budgets with bigger names. One of my concerns about when he was, about building a new theater is the theater attendance is actually going like this. And over the last 10 years, theatrical screenings are down 50% over the last 10 years. So
part of that is pandemic, but even so, there's still that trend.
Yeah, well, it's still
all of the streaming is.
Yeah, because of the trend. So Hollywood is demanding more. They're demanding more, and so it's really interesting. We have a film we made, and that's been pitched to all the big ones: Sony Pictures, Lionsgate, all of them. They want a big name actor who's going to draw audience, or they want like a built-in audience. Like if you have a book like Twilight and it has several million readers, then you got that big audience. So they're looking for that. Or they're looking for, they want guarantees. They don't want to take risks. And so I'm trying to make a decision right now. Do I keep trying to find, hit more bigger players? There's still some big ones we haven't got into yet. Do I still keep trying to hit those, or do I just forget it and go with one of these smaller distributors that, that already want the film and just lose money? That's a hard thing to swallow, So I'm trying to figure out if there's any mid-range options, but it's hard right now. There is no mid-range. It's either super low budget or bigger budget. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what we've been seeing in the theaters as well. Like the lower budget or mid-range type of films, you aren't seeing popping up in there as much as they used to.
And one of the reasons for it is they don't have films in theaters as long anymore. For example, you could take a lower budget film, stick it in theaters, and let it grow. you know, it did well in this many theaters and it would grow. So the average time used to be 80 days of a film in theaters. Now it's 32. It went from 80 to 32. With 32 days, it's not enough time to let a film grow.
Yeah.
So
I believe Heretic just landed on streaming markets, video on demand and stuff this week, if I remember right.
Yeah.
When was the release on that? It was like just
Like last month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So, you know, I'm trying to learn the distribution avenue. I really enjoy learning about filmmaking, and I've learned a ton. All the way from development to now distribution. So I'm trying to figure it out.
If I may, though, one thing I would say as a positive silver lining in kind of those markets and stuff is that the streaming consumption world has really blown up and grown like over the last decade or so. Because before, and I think this is where like Hollywood is, I won't say struggling, but trying to get their feet under them and figuring it out, is that like you would release a movie in the theaters and after opening weekend they would already know whether it was a hit, whether it was a flop, you know, they're making their money back. They had all their algorithms to say, okay, it's going to make this much money off of the run, it's going to make this much money like in VHS sales and things like that. And I think everyone's trying to figure out like, well, what's the algorithm? What's the financial like code thing to know what we're doing on the streaming market? And I don't think anybody has that yet because everyone's so like tight holding secretive of those numbers, right? Netflix doesn't want anybody to know like how much their number one stream thing actually does for them or what those numbers really are. And so everybody's kind of struggling with that. But that being said, the consumption of media has shot up so big because of that even though we're seeing kind of the death of the mid to low budget films like in the theatrical release space, those films are transitioning and thriving and living in the streaming markets now at this point. And even a lot of these studios and stuff, you're seeing shows popping up on like Apple TV and Netflix and Amazon Originals and things that are, you know, getting a lot of budget, a lot of life, and a lot of support from the studios because that's become such a lucrative space for them at this point. And so even though, you know, you're in this weird spot where, you know, the smaller distribution companies are saying, well, we think we can make this much, like in the streaming markets, and these places aren't hitting the numbers that you need, and it's not as high. Or it's not high enough in the point where like, the big studios are like, yes, we're going to take this, we're going to throw it all in theaters, we're going to make this much money. I do think that because the streaming market is growing and expanding out and still kind of finding its place, that if you do end up skipping the big studio routes and going with some of these smaller people, that you're going to find your film living in a space that's a growing market. And it is possible that, you know, instead of getting the foothold by expanding out in theaters and word of mouth and advertising there, that you can find a way in the streaming market and in the, like kind of the more grassroots type of space to get that.
They don't pay that much for on rentals, the streaming, not even Netflix. They're, you know.
Well, I'll say this: Netflix is kind of notorious for not paying well, especially for like independent content.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, those numbers do add up surprisingly over time.
Yeah.
Like I still get number reports from Amazon or Tubi and some of these like free streamers, and I'm like, people are still watching this movie in my like I put it out like over 10 years ago. My daughter was born last day of production and she's a teenager now, and like we'll get a quarter report and it's like it made more money this quarter than it did when it released on the streaming market 10 years ago.
Wow.
It's weird how it works. So to me, I'm getting my my film education.
Yeah. But I will say there is a silver lining there. There's a space where I think that could grow and thrive for you that might not be presenting itself right now.
So Premiere will be taking it into that space?
Yeah. So another reason why we went with Premiere is because they specialize more in licensing deals, where Candlelight Media has kind of been dropping off of the licensing deals and just doing more streaming type of stuff. They've mentioned that stuff's hard, and they're just all kind of falling away. They're building their own channel now. They've got Spark TV, and Spark TV, yeah. And so, but yeah, it's like the Spark channel. I think it's on Peacock and other stuff. And they're trying to build themselves to be kind of like a HBO or a Hallmark or a Great American Family kind of thing. So Premier Entertainment Group isn't trying to do any of that kind of stuff. And so it seems like they're pushing a lot more to be like, we're making direct sales with these countries, these broadcasts and stuff. And we're still need a little bit more clarification on their domestic deal, but it sounds like they've sold to a place domestically that will then, have connections to like Tubi and Hulu and Amazon and Peacock and those places, and is getting it all in the streaming markets there. And then as they make those kind of profits, then they, take their cut and like share it back to them. And so they're working with different groups and organizations, whether it's like a licensing, like broadcast deal or streaming deals, and they're setting those up depending on their relationships with the domestic market, international market, like streaming markets.
And that's why filmmakers don't make a ton of money right there, is because these distribution companies work with other middlemen before they even get to the distributors. Like Candlelight was telling me, yeah, we have direct access to some of them, so some of these other distributors go through them to get to their end. So it's like all these people taking a piece of the pie with these smaller distributors.
Yeah,
And
but what you have to ask yourself is, what is it that they're bringing to the table for that?
Yeah.
Because the reality is we could distribute our film ourselves without going through Candlelight, without going through Premier Entertainment Group. Like, we can hit the marketplace and fight to get it on Amazon and other streaming and do those kind of things and get 100% profit off of everything that we make. So the question is what service are they providing? And so like when it came with Candlelight Media, we didn't have to put in all the work and effort to get it on Amazon and to get it on Tubi and to do all those kind of things, because they have those connections and those relationships, and they do that. They take their cut, of course, but let's just say their cut is like 25%, we'll say a quarter, right? They take a quarter of $100,000 that they make off of it. So they've got $25,000, we get $75,000. The question is if we had 100% of the cut, but us going through and trying to hit those markets takes up 3 or 4 months of our time, and we make $60,000 a year for it.
And you don't even get in because they only work with who
exactly
they're people they know.
Premier Entertainment Group has made more licensing deals than Candlelight's made on our 3 movies combined, just going to AFM. So it seems like that's kind of what they're bringing to the table, right? They can make those licensing deals. They're not as good at streaming as Candlelight Media is, so maybe that is they license to Candlelight Media. Candlelight Media takes their cut and gives it to them, and it comes to us. And we get less money than if we went with Candlelight Media, but that's kind of the game that's being played. And so the question is how much time management is it going to take on your hand? What service are they providing, and is that better than if you do it yourself? And we're kind of the opinion that we would rather them take their cuts and get our movies out there and make money for us than for us to spend the time doing that, because I'd rather spend the time just making another movie.
Exactly.
Right.
You wouldn't love doing what they do.
Right.
Spend your time making movies.
Yeah, that is definitely not my bread and butter. I'm not passionate about trying to make distribution deals. And so I'm okay handing the reins over to other people to do that kind of stuff. And then the benefit is also, maybe Premier Entertainment Group sells to another group that puts it on the streaming markets, and so we're having a cut of a pie from a cut of a pie to us.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, for example, with Candlelight Media, you know, if you watch something like Love in the Caribbean or a Matchmaker Christmas or Christmas of Wonders or something that's being distributed by them, well, what happens is when that movie finishes on that streaming platform, you have that little thing that pops up and says, "Oh, customers also watched," and you'll have, you know, Bookworm and the Beast and Love and Focus and like those other movies pop up, and so they kind of have a built-in audience in that sense of the people that kind of watch their kind of movies.
I see.
And then because their content is connected with our content because they're distributing us, then we also get the benefit of having that type of exposure through associating with them.
Collaborate.
Yeah,
Collaboration.
and I can't give you the palpability of what those numbers actually translate into. But I can go to the streaming thing, click on some films, and see those things all connected, so that I know that it's there. And so I do think that there is a benefit from, you know, these different places making deals and selling them to different people.
Well, at some point, I'd like to meet with you, you know, like one-on-one to figure out what you've learned, and
Yeah.
people like Garrett Batty. I want to meet with a bunch of filmmakers. There's filmmakers like Rocco Villiers that claims his film made $7 million and he didn't see one penny from the distributor. You know, I mean, I just want to understand this whole distribution thing. Figure out how we can make it better or what we can do different.
Yeah, you should totally do like a lunch with me and Rob. Rob can answer those questions better than me because I'm much more of the creative and he's more logistical.
A meeting for the Visionaries.
Visionaries, exactly.
Yeah,
Why don't we aim at having you and Rob speak here?
Yeah.
And whoever else that would be appropriate to come in.
Do that in February.
That's the key to everything.
We might be shooting, but
That is the absolute key to success, because if you can get good distribution channels in place, you can make movies endlessly.
Yeah.
And just keep shoving them through those that keep taking your films, just shove them through there.
And
so
the
distribution, we should be talking about that more.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing you have to understand about that is a lot of it's just they want the check boxes, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're less concerned about whether they like the movie or not.
No.
I mean, that's important, but like, you know, for them, they want to be able to say, oh, it has like a B-list star and it's within this genre and it's doing this thing and that thing.
Yeah.
One of the issues with, I want to say it was Brian's film, the Not Cinderella's Type, is that, and this is probably a lot of filmmakers do, they're like, oh, I'm going to make a horror romance. And now we've got
genre that he did.
Now
I'm
we
not sure it works.
Now we've got both audiences. Because we've
I
got
see.
the horror audience and the romance
And what it
audience.
turns out to
But
be
what
is
happens is
neither.
you
split
get
them. You
that little
split
split of the people that like to watch The Heretic and also love the Hallmark Christmas specials. and
you narrow your market.
And so you narrow your market. You don't
Instead of
expand it out.
broadening it.
And so with like Not Cinderella's Type, they shot that one and made it like they do all their kind of Hallmark movies, except the book it was based off of and the story is about a high school teenage girl because it's the Cinderella story. And so they had a hard time getting that one out there and making sales on it because the people that would watch it to pick it up are like, well, that's a family like movie. That's not a Hallmark romance movie. But then the people that would look at it for the family movies will be like, that's more of a Hallmark. That's not necessarily our things. So they were always just looking for those boxes to check to be able to say kind of
What
like
genre
what
it
genre
is,
is and pick it up because, you know, what they want is to cover their butts that if they make a sale somewhere and it doesn't do well or something goes wrong and, you know, their bosses come in and say, hey, like, why did we take this movie? They go, well, you know, we crossed our T's, dotted our I's, like everything checked out. I guess it just wasn't the one, you know?
Right.
And so that's a lot of what I think you're dealing with in distribution. And to be fair, when you said the big studios want the big name stars, the little distribution companies also want the big name stars and stuff too. because that's another box that you can check and say, this is going to get people to click on the
But they'll
movie.
still settle on B-listers.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
mean,
they will take Liam Neeson anytime.
yeah, they'll take Liam Neeson anytime. Like
No, it's-
Nicolas Cage, you know.
But, so by learning what they're looking for in the boxes, that can be extremely beneficial to filmmakers, because before you even start a film, just make sure it clicks. You know,
Check
this
that box,
this
that box, and that
this
box.
In fact, you create your whole film around all those boxes being checked.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
look,
like Tracy Hainsworth, internal green lighting.
Right.
If you,
Yeah.
you remember those when she came?
Yep.
Yeah.
She talked a lot about that.
That's right.
Another thing that keep coming to mind as you're talking about this is, and I don't know how well it would go across, but I've looked into a little bit of the insufferable Stephen Grew and how many films he's made, and he keeps making films, and he has to be making money, or he wouldn't be able to keep
Who's
making the
Stephen
films.
Grew?
He's
I would say
Who
he's
is
making
he?
money.
Well,
Who
maybe
is
not
he?
a lot of money,
He-
but-
he is an amazing filmmaker. You should check out his movies.
What's his name?
Stephen Grew. I think he's a local. I'm pretty sure he's a local.
Stephen Grew.
Yeah.
G-R-O.
Groo, I believe it is.
GRO.
I recommend
believe
you
he
check
was a
out his
BYU
She-Hulk
student.
trailer. It's
Um,
like 20 minutes long. It's a treat.
And he actually made one literally called The Insufferable Stephen
Well,
Grew.
he didn't
with
make
Jack,
that. That was BYU.
That's
doing
right,
A
that's right,
documentary
that's right.
of him making a movie.
Jack Black's
Oh.
in it and other
Yeah.
stuff like
Guys,
that.
I've
But
got to put
Yeah,
that
name
well,
down.
Yeah.
and I don't. It's been 2 years since I even looked into this. We were going to have him as a guest for LTUE a couple of years ago, and it didn't go through. And I've forgotten a lot of what I'd studied about him, but he keeps making films, at least enough money to keep making the films. So there's something that's, even if he's not making money, he's making enough to keep making films, kind of thing. So it's a discussion that could be had that might add to what Doug was talking about.
Yeah.
Why don't we bring him in?
Stephen Grew.
You laugh, why? Why do you laugh? Because he's...
They may not have misnamed that movie.
Insufferable.
Yeah.
The
Stephen
Insufferable Crew.
Stephen Grew.
Yeah, there's a.
Well, watch the documentary.
Watch the
check
documentary.
out one of his movies.
Yeah, there's
No,
some-
he seems like a really nice person. I've met him once or twice. He's a character.
Yeah,
He's-
yeah. I've heard some,
He's a-
and I don't want to say anything negative about him because that's not my purpose. But
Look,
there's a
he's-
number of people that have worked with him that feel like there's some inseparability
He's
there.
made more feature-length films
Yeah.
than anyone.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
Woody
there's
Allen,
tons.
I
I
guess.
mean, we're talking. Isn't it in the hundreds? Seems like there's like 200 films that he's made.
Is he
I have-
local? And he's a local?
I'd have to look. I'd have to look it up.
he's a BYU grad.
But yeah, he's a
He
great
is?
grad.
Yeah.
Anything we've ever heard of?
How come we've
No.
never
They're
heard
they're
of
B
this guy?
and C films.
Nobody's heard of this guy.
That explains it.
But he's made the films, and he keeps making enough money to make more films, which he loves to do. So,
I mean,
there's some formula of at least marginal, minimal success.
Yeah, there's a formula
Something
there that
to
he
look at.
he's tapped into.
Yeah, that could be
But he
tweaked
keeps
on.
working it, and then he keeps
Brandon?
making movies.
the reason why you haven't heard of any of his films is because I think every single film is probably in the 2 digits of people that have seen it. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a problem.
They're just bad films. They're just bad. Maybe.
I mean, bad is such an abstract
Term.
term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can look up how many he's made. But
Well, who haven't we? Nick, we haven't heard
Yeah,
you.
let's, Nick.
I don't have much to add for this conversation. I mean,
Okay.
I've still been working on some scripts that I'm working on. So,
Yeah.
The Abraham musical, I'm making some progress on that. There's a couple of film scripts that I'm working on. We've got the symposium LTUE is pretty much locked in. We've still got a few hours that we're adding to cleaning up. The Apex writing group presentations are going well. I may want to talk to you about that. It's
Yeah, great.
You've heard of Brandon Sanderson, you've heard of Stephanie Meyer, you've heard of James Dashner, you've heard of a number of other New York Times bestselling authors. Well, they were all taught by the guy that founded this Apex writing group, David Farland. And he passed away back in 2022, and I've been hosting his group and helping lead the group since then. I've edited a couple of his books and stuff like that. But this, I love the film, and I've been studying intensely film for the last, well, many years. I'm the theater and the media arts track head for the symposium. And so, and I've been running a film festival for, this will be the 9th year, I think, now.
Oh, which one?
In 2025, it's just the LTUE Film Festival. It's small, you know, we have a couple of years we've had 12 hours, but I limit it to 3 hours on purpose just because of time. But I'm using Film Freeway, and I mean, we're getting 1,400 to 1,500 films every year.
Submissions.
That we're going through.
Yep.
Yeah. Film Freeway is great. And I didn't get to talk to, I've talked to Tom personally about this, but I haven't talked to
Quinn.
Yeah, Quinn. I should remember that. I've got a granddaughter named Quinn. But I haven't talked to Quinn about that yet. But there's a lot that you can do with brand new indie films if you run it through Film Freeway, kind of area like that. And I've worked with a number of the creative film creators there on that. The other thing that I wanted to report, just for fun, is that in my office in my basement used to be a recording studio. So it's a small scale thing. But then when my company when COVID hit, I had to start working from home, and so I didn't have any other space. And so my work stuff got put in front of my music studio stuff. And so I only was able to use my portable system for recording stuff. So this past 2 weeks, I've opened up my studio again, and I'm putting my music studio back together again so that I can actually do some real recording and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm still working on stuff, and I'm working with Robert on some stuff. The reason I brought up the website is, as I was going through and cleaning up some of my old hard drives, I found, you know, how the Tuca website the payment wasn't made or something on it, and the website died. I found like the source code for the original Tuca website that I was helping you with for a period of time, and until it kind of didn't go. Anyway, I don't remember if it's the full set of stuff, but I made a backup of it when I was working on it and helping you with that. But that was back, I think, what was it, 2020, 2021 maybe. And so it's like we've slept since then and forgotten it all. But it was pretty funny that you mentioned it, because it's like just last week I found some of that stuff. So anyway, for what it's worth, that's pretty random, but
Robert?
a couple of yes.
You're next.
Well, we finished the filming of the next season on the TV series America's Real Deal.
How'd it go?
And it went really well.
Did they do a live cut?
No.
So you got
it's in post right now, but it's in post down in LA.
Oh, it is.
I was trying to convince the final decision makers in LA to have it all right here in Utah, but no, they want it. The film production, the film industry is down, so they're getting some really good deals.
I was going to say, they probably want all the work they can get.
Why is it down?
Well, part of it was
Everything's going to Georgia.
yeah, but that's part of it as well. But a lot of it was the strike,
right?
The
A year
strike
ago,
kind of killed it.
yeah. A year ago, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
takes a
So
while
they
to
haven't
recover
ramped
from
back
all that.
up to
They haven't
full-
all ramped up yet.
to full
And
capacity.
because of the distribution market, which you kind of described a bit there,
Yep.
it's a whole different, not totally different, but there's enough differences. It's some problematic there. The other part of it is the unknowns, and you kind of touched on that too. Trying to figure out the algorithms and all of that. That's a big issue.
Yeah.
At any rate, the
How many episodes did they shoot?
8.
They shot 8.
Which is good. The 2 years ago that we shot here,
Yeah.
which was a great experience here. The only issue was the set is much larger,
Yeah.
much larger,
Yeah, that was
taller
the reason they went up
and
there.
wider and
Yeah.
all that. So that's why we
Yeah,
ended
they
up
had to
in
have that
city.
stage up there.
And
And it went well with that.
Went very well.
With the Utah Film Studios.
You know the name Jordan Sparks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was our program host.
Oh, wonderful.
So she came on into the studio there, and she had one of those little scooter things, and her foot in a large boot thing, you know.
Oh, no, she
and I said, Jordan, you know, normally when you want to wish someone good luck on stage, you say break a leg, but we didn't mean that.
Not literally.
So she did really well. And then we had, I don't know if you know Byron Scott, former NBA, and he was coach of the LA Lakers for a while. He and his wife were there as some of the business icons, and we had a couple other really.
So it sounds like the budgets were a little bit bigger.
You know, about 6 times more than what we had. Yeah, I say that because I'd have loved to have had a little more funds. We were super tight here, but much appreciated what Doug and you were all
it was the
helping us make
beginnings.
things
It
work.
was the
That's right.
beginnings. Now you guys are
That's
branching
right.
out. You're
Well,
becoming
and
famous.
I don't know if you remember JBH, the billionaire woman.
Yeah.
By the way, member of the church too.
Really?
In LA. I mean,
Is that
she
right?
was the very first in the whole world, the first African American woman to be a billionaire before Oprah.
Really?
So, yeah.
Yeah,
She-
not Oprah.
So when we were filming here 2 years ago, one of the companies that was part of the competition there was selling some coffee. And so they bring out some mugs, you know, and set it on the table next to her on the sound stage. And there's Marie Osmond right there, and there's JBH here. And so JBH sees this sitting right next to her. I had met her briefly, but hadn't talked with her about her background at all. But she's out of LA, and she's originally from North Carolina, African American woman, business success and everything. And so somebody sets this back next to her, and the other billionaire sits next to him, and she looks at that, and she's kind of to anybody. I'm standing right in front of her there. She says, "What would members of my stake think about this?" And I said, JBH, are you LDS? Well, yes. Are you? So we had some great discussions.
So next they started bringing hot chocolate.
Well, about 10 years earlier, her CFO, she's got a $4.3 billion company that operates in 22 countries that she built.
What's the business?
What do they do?
They do HR. HR work for small other companies around here.
Right.
I'm trying to remember the name of her company. You'd recognize the name if I remembered it. I could look her up. I've got it here. But she ended up with her CFO, who was a member of the church, just telling her here and there a little bit about the church, and she had more questions. She was curious. She invites him into her office. Tell me more. You know. She ends up with the Missionaries and joined the church about 10 years ago. So
Wow.
that's really cool.
That's awesome.
But
How long ago?
about 10 years ago in LA.
Was she involved in this version?
She wanted to be involved in this,
Right.
but she had a scheduling, timing
Conflict.
issue, and some other things, and we ended up with other business icons, and
Okay.
it was a super complicated thing to pull together all of the different. We had no fewer than 15 people on set, on camera at any one time.
Wow.
11 cameras. We shot it all on Sony FX9s, which ended up being pretty good.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I admitted up front, said, hey, you know, we ought to do Area Alexis.
Alexis,
And
what'd they say?
the guy from LA that was DP on it, he said, we'll do FX9s.
Okay.
And I, for this purpose, I think that's okay.
Okay.
That's very understandable, actually.
What's their ETA on cuts?
1st of March.
1st of March. for
End
the
of,
cuts.
I mean, it'll be in music composition in February. So.
All right.
But
Yeah.
there's this, but the whole LA workforce down there is cutting deals because
Because
they
they
don't
need
have
the
they
work.
don't have the workflow right.
Yeah,
now.
they need the work.
They're cutting deals. I was really pleased though to be able to convince the LA showrunner out of NBC
Right.
that
To shoot it here.
Do it here.
And was he happy with
Very happy.
Park Cities?
A woman. She was very happy.
It was a woman. Okay.
Yeah, and very happy with the crew, very happy with the studio there.
The facility.
Yeah.
It's a nice facility. I mean,
Well, it's not as nice as here. Seriously, this is a nicer building. They don't have anything like this.
no, but in terms of space and
Space and how the grid is
the
built
grid
up
works.
there and all
Yeah.
that.
I mean, you can shoot. I mean, Yellowstone shot.
Yeah.
What, 3
Oh.
seasons there?
Yeah.
Blood and Oil.